Hey, Simmer.
What's up, Elliot?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
No, about Friday.
Not bad. Not bad. It's a nice day today.
It's a nice day today.
Gonna enjoy the weather a little bit.
Friday. Well, everyone, welcome to the Right Call Podcast. This is episode 94. Jesus Christ, sorry. Let's not start swearing right away. Before I get started, the usual, yes, microphone is going a little crazy there. Yeah. You kept hearing I was like, no bueno. Gonna be on that. Okay. So yeah, a little bit of housekeeping, the usual. So we are a self-funded operation, guys. And as such, we started a Patreon. We charge $8 a month for access to what we call on the right side of things. You're going to get shout outs and a bunch of other little goodies that we're still working on offering people. But it helps us keep or stay afloat. So if, you could check it out. And this is not me begging for money at all. Did you see, by the way, this is completely irrelevant. This is stupid. But there's this guy called oh my God, what is it? Hub Life. There you go. Hub's Life. I think that's the name.
No, I haven't heard of him.
No, never? Yeah, you know who he is, eh? So it's a TikToker. And he made, or his rise to fame was all about making content about just a boring ass fucking 9-to-5 life. He would record himself waking up, making breakfast, going to the office, working like some freaking accounting job, the most boring stuff. But he was trying to show that you don't need to have a glamorous life. Right? Everything is good. And he blew up. Like, he really blew up. And, I think a lot of people related to it because a lot of people are in that shoe, or in those shoes. Not everyone's a freaking Hollywood celebrity. And eventually, he grew so big that he quit his corporate job to start becoming an influencer full time. And people turned on him because, you're becoming everything you hated. You lost your authenticity, the genuine nature of what you were doing. And then he would go on TikTok Live and beg people for money, like, please donate, please buy a galaxy, send me a galaxy, please send me money. It's like, wow, what a fall from grace. Anyways, so speaking of fall from grace, there's plenty of things to talk about that are crashing around the world. I hate having to report on negativity all the time, but there is. So today we will be covering Bill C-9. We did not have the time last week to talk about it, but this is probably the most grievous, outrageous overreach ever. It is going to get you, all of us arrested one day for sure. We're going to talk about insolvency rates in Canada. It's an interesting thing. We're not going to go too deep on it, but still, the US, the American government has shut down. So if you're a federal worker right now in the US, that sucks to be you. We're going to talk a little bit about Canada and the economy as well. I'd like to say Canada chooses to be poor. And I think we absolutely do.
Absolutely.
I think most Canadians don't want to be rich, and we'll show you why. And also at the same time, we'll be covering a little bit the state of Canada because it seems like everyone's on strike. Everything's on strike. Nothing's working. Everyone's staying home and complaining that they need more money. I don't know where that comes from. And if we have time at the end, I want to talk about 5 brutal facts about Europe and its economy because Europe is falling apart. It's not just Canada falling apart, man. Europe is also the Western world is falling apart. The UK. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Got a lot to cover.
Yeah. So, and is there any additional thing you wanted to absolutely dive on today?
We're, like you said, we're going to talk about the state of Canada a little bit. We have a lot of different headlines and information I'd love to share with our viewers.
Awesome. So let's enter Bill C-9. And Bill C-9 is going to allow us to look a little bit at the UK as well. So what the hell is Bill C-9, right? I love how they always give these little names. And it's like, this one is called, oh my God, what are they calling it? No, I don't have the name of it, but they always give it these super cute names, Bill C-9, an act to, protect people's feelings online, something like that. And people are like, oh, that's good. Effectively, it was introduced on September 19th by the Liberal government under Minister of Justice Sean Fraser, the my favorite anti-hero. The guy, he's like the opposite of Midas touch. Mm-hmm. Everything he touches goes to shit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go to gold. He was what? He was a Minister of Housing.
Immigration as well.
Immigration.
Housing Minister, Immigration Minister, and now Public Safety, or?
No. Now he's the Justice Minister.
Yeah, Justice Minister. Yeah.
Yes. So let's see if we can go 3 for 3. You destroyed the immigration system. You collapsed the housing market. Now let's just see if we can just become the most violent society in Canada.
With no justice.
Oh God, yeah. So Bill C-9 is presented as a direct response to a horrifying rise in hate crime targeting community. I don't know why I said it like that, but it's just so freaking like I roll my eyes at it. Targeting communities based on race, religion, and sexual orientation. The government's stated goal is to strengthen the criminal code to better protect Canadians and ensure they can feel safe in their communities. Never mind going after actual criminals and bank robbers and thieves and home break-ins. No, we got to protect your feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings are important in this world.
So important for liberals.
Very much so. However, the bill is generating significant controversy from civil liberties and constitutional rights organization, and rightfully so. You'll see why. The core criticism is that the proposed laws are overly broad, risk criminalizing protected speech and peaceful protests, and remove important legal safeguards, potentially leading to a chilling effect on public debate. Wonder when's the last time they did that. Cough, cough, freedom convoy. In essence, while the government frames the bill as a necessary shield for vulnerable groups, critics argue that it could be wielded as a sword against fundamental chartered rights. So, all right, that's like a nice low intro, but let's look a little bit what it does. First of all, it creates a new hate crime offense, because right now in the Criminal Code of Canada, hate is an aggravating factor in the commission of a crime. So let's say you kill someone, but you do it in a hateful manner. That's worse, apparently, okay? Because murder is not already bad enough as it is. But what the government wants to do, what Sean Fraser and Carney want to do, is they want to make it a separate, standalone offense. Hate is by itself now a crime. Now, that risks obviously stigmatizing defendants before a conviction because, like think about it, and that's a good kind of point to consider. You're in a jury trial for a criminal offense. Let's say, I don't know, you shouted something at someone. I don't know, you called someone a dirty X, let's say. And you were arrested for it. And now you're in a court of law and you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But on top of that, you're charged with hate. Right off the bat, that puts a label on you. Like, how can a jury or a juror sit there on a jury and think, yeah, this person was probably a good person? No, it creates right away this stigma of like, you're a hateful person. Motivation should be an aggravating factor as it is right now in sentencing, but it should never become a separate charge. Another thing too is that it criminalizes blocking access or intimidating people at places of worship, schools, and community centers. Now, at face value, sounds okay. You shouldn't be, blocking people. However, this could lead, obviously, since the definition is so broad as to what is considered intimidation or blocking access, it could prevent people from exercising their rights to protest. Let's say there was this organization you absolutely believed were repugnant and you wanted to host a protest in front of their place of business, let's say, but on public land. You're not on their private property. You're on a sidewalk, let's say, which is public area. Now, this could be considered a hate offense, and you could be arrested for that.
Essentially, they're removing the right to protest indirectly.
Indirectly. And it's always going to be done indirectly. And that's what I've realized is
Absolutely.
that the government's never going to do it outright and tell you, yeah, we're removing your rights. People would obviously rebel against that. But they do it in these little insidious, always under the guise of doing something right, but they encroach slowly but surely, a little bit more power, a little bit more control. Always. Just like, just take the shot. It's to save your grandmother. Take the shot. Anyway, so another thing that it does is it creates a new hate symbol crime. So it bans public displays of symbols like the Nazi swastika or terrorist entity flags that willfully promote hatred. Now, in my eyes, that is insane. That is insane. Not because I believe in the Nazi swastika or, let's say, the Hamas flag. I am against both of those things. However, I am absolutely for the free expression of someone. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to have heat for it. If I see someone flying a Nazi flag, I might call him, a certain kind of word. However, I still believe his right should be upheld that he's allowed to fly it. If he's willing to endure the public shame that comes with it, it should not be criminal in my eyes.
It's not a crime.
It shouldn't be a crime, right? It also codifies a definition of hatred. So it adds a definition based on a Supreme Court jurisprudence. Sadly, the thing is that it appears to lower the legal threshold for what constitutes hatred from the initial established Supreme Court standard to a much lower threshold. I don't have the text of it, but effectively it just makes anything that goes against someone's feelings as potentially hatred. We're basing our laws now on feelings.
On subjectivity.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it, on subjectivity. And that is incredible because we're going to see in the UK what subjectivity can do.
What a disaster. We're actually going to be able to see the outcomes of legislation like this when it passes and it's implemented bureaucratically and enforced by law enforcement. I've prepared a sequence of videos that are essentially going to illustrate how, if legislation like Bill C2, Bill C-9 are passed, how they could potentially be implemented and how citizens will see their lifestyle change as a result of it. And some of these videos that I have been storing for weeks and weeks are horrifying, but they're happening in the UK.
And I think it's very important because people, again, when we talk about it, it probably flies like 40,000 feet over most people's heads. They can't fathom, they can't visualize how it would impact them day to day. But this shows what these kinds of laws that are already implemented in other countries that we assume are free societies, well, not so quick. It actually ends up being incredibly tyrannical.
The UK is the birthplace of common law. People kind of people aren't really aware of that these days, but our civil society, the way our society is structured, a lot of it is because of British common law.
Absolutely.
And so to watch essentially the pillar of democracy, one of the pillars of democracy, essentially fall to this far left thought crime kind of
but that's what it
behavior.
is.
That's exactly what it is. Think a certain way, behave a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way. And some of these examples that I'm going to show you are completely horrifying, and in terms of living in a free society. And so,
well, you know what? Okay, so just in short, just so that people can understand, and I'll put it in like plain talk, right? Bill C-9 creates a brand new offense for hate. Now, hate is broad and can be subjective, and that itself can get you imprisoned. And by the way, when we're talking about imprisonment here, this new bill will increase prison time for hate-motivated mischief and speech from 2 years to 7 years. That means you could be locked up in federal prison for 7 years because you said something that could be considered hateful. That's the basic of it. So first of all, I encourage everyone to like go on your Facebook timeline, right? Like on this day, you can check like back in the days. When I was like 16, 17, 18, the shit that we would post that were completely normal to post on the internet today would probably send me to the gulag for 7 years.
Yeah, it's thought suppression.
Absolutely.
That's what they're doing. It's you express a certain thought and an opinion. Especially as a conservative, we tend to go against the liberal narratives, especially on their economic front and their policies and their authoritarian legislation, that criticizing that can be considered hate.
Yep.
Criticizing the status quo, even if, even if the government in power is liberal because they were voted in power, but criticizing them can be categorized as hate.
Yeah.
And so this is how these things kind of fester in society, and then they become this... they become a disaster. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, and make no mistake, this is about mostly controlling what's said online. Because I think now the new front for discourse and for the sharing of ideas is obviously done online. And the government has no tools, at least not openly, to control such things, right? Now, we've learned that, for example, Google was asked by the Biden administration last week. It was revealed in a House Oversight Committee, I believe, that the Biden admin targeted various dissenters by asking Google to remove their YouTube videos.
My YouTube channel was deactivated during the election cycle. I was creating YouTube content. It started going viral. It was very wholesome content. They just took down my channel. No appeal. I appealed once. They rejected it automatically within 10 minutes. So it's an automated rejection. And then I appealed again. Boom, your channel will not be put back on YouTube. I tried to message them. They're like, nope, we found that you... Essentially, this is what thought suppression.
Yep.
This is how legislation like C2, and C9 will... This is how it will kind of transpire, the right word?
Yeah.
Manifest in society.
Manifest in society. All right. So let's give some concrete example, right? If you want to pull out some of the
UK clips,
some of the UK clips.
Oh my God. Okay.
So we're gonna put on TV right now, and after we're gonna put this on the screen, so you're gonna see this.
Okay. So the first one, I made this I chose this one because it's the most ridiculous one.
And just to give context, by the way, okay, what we're about to show you are examples because Canada's Bill C-9 mimics very closely certain German laws or certain British, UK, United Kingdom laws on hate speech and online content. And we're trying to show you what it can lead to, the decay it can bring to society. And if you think you're immune to it, because I hate when people say this, they say like, well,
It's not going to happen here.
well, not only that, they'll say like, if you don't do anything bad, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about. No. Look, listen, we've all said stupid shit online, every single one of us. And guess what? Yeah, you see, we got EK over here. He's like, yes, you know, and we were never scared of being arrested for it. Embarrassed, maybe a little, but arrested, no. So let's see this.
So this one is London authorities have fallen. Hold on. London police threatened a Jewish man with arrest for walking near a pro-Palestine rally while being visibly Jewish.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction. You've been escorted out of this area so you can go about your business, go where you like freely, or if you choose to remain here, because you are causing a breach of peace between these other people, you will be arrested.
If I remain here, you will arrest me.
Because your presence is antagonising a large group of people that we can't deal with all of them. If they attack you, or if they because your presence.
Wow.
So you are quite openly Jewish. If you choose to remain here, you will be arrested for breaching the peace.
That's because, yeah.
Is it Nazi Germany or is it the United Kingdom? I'm not really sure what's going on here. Let's keep moving here.
But what I think was happening there is because it was clearly like a Hamas or a Palestine protest going on, right? And the police was saying, well, you're a Jew here and you're like the antithesis of what these people are protesting. But nonetheless, the Jew, the Israeli or whatever, had the right to be there. That's what I don't understand.
It's egregious. Check this out. A war veteran is arrested for holding up a sign that offended the wrong people. Your tax dollars at work picking up a war veteran for holding up a sign that he's allowed to say that I don't agree with these people. He's allowed to say that I don't sympathize with their actions. This is how I feel, and this is my
Let's put ourselves in his shoes, right? He fought in World War II. This guy defended the country against authoritarianism, only to see his country devolve into what he fought for, and probably lost so many of his brothers too.
The worst part is the standards that they set with these kinds of arrests, because there are far more serious crimes that humans commit, and the penalties of some of these hate crimes or thought crimes are more severe than SA.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and this is I found this. I looked it up. And it's a thing. Hold on a sec. "21st century British justice. This man, Sean Tuck, got 15 weeks in prison for posting a racist comment on Facebook.
Oh my God.
Okay. 24 months of prison for Sam Malia. Sold anti-immigration stickers, which I probably would have bought as an immigrant because I'm tired of immigration and the way it's become. I'm not tired of immigrants, I'm not tired of people, but the way the system is. And so he's allowed to sell these stickers. He's allowed to say, I'm not a fan of this.
Right to jail.
Right to jail. 24 months, 2 years of your life gone because you tried to sell a sticker to protest something that you think as a civilian is wrong, which is your civil right. And Mr. Al-Soami, 180 hours of community service and no prison time for assaulting a 12-year-old girl.
Ooh.
I mean, the contrast is extremely stark in this situation. It's completely disgusting that a thought crime for political opinion can land you a more serious sentence than committing assault on a minor.
But and I think the UK has those laws, and Canada want to pass it too. It's basically during sentencing. if you're an immigrant or like a marginalized group, it has to be taken into consideration during your sentencing in order to lessen your burden, because just being alive is already a burden to these people, apparently. So this is probably what happened.
I got one more that just rattled me. Check this out. Asking someone to speak clearly in English can be treated as a hate crime.
During some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English, or words to that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No, the gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he said speak clearly.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Taxpayers pay for this shit. Okay, let's be real here. This guy is a public worker getting paid to tell someone that asking someone to speak clearly in English is a hate crime. It's fucking embarrassing.
Well, you know what? You know what's funny though? This shit would never, maybe this is going to be the first time ever I say something good about Quebec, right? These hate crime laws would never work in Quebec, because the amount of time that you'd have just cabs being like, on est au Québec, c'est parlant français, you know what I mean? Hate jail. Like, we're doing
It's not happening here.
It's not fucking happening here. It just isn't. I got a couple more that I want to show as well real quick, right? So this one, okay, and this one blew my mind. Okay, it's a blogger that was arrested for sharing anti-Hamas memes, right? Anti-Hamas memes. Really, which, by the way, just so you know, is a designated terror organization in the UK, right? And you're arrested for sharing a meme about them, against them, may I add. This is, again, a lunacy. This is the kind of shit we're heading towards. This one, I know, rattled a lot of people. This was a British judge that is reading the sentence and sentencing someone to 2 years in prison for a Facebook comment. A fucking Facebook comment, guys.
There's more people being put out homeless each year. They get top band priority on housing. You went on to say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority, end quote. Although you said that you had no intention of carrying out any act of violence, there can be no doubt that you were inciting others to do so.
See, this is where
How
it
can
gets
there
dangerous.
be no doubt? Please clarify
That's
to
what
me.
I mean, it's dangerous. It's so subjective. So this judge, this cuck, I should call him, who feels like society is threatened by a post, attaches meaning to the post, attaches intent to the post. The post was just about bringing attention to the fact that he believes that there's too many immigrants, they get priority in the system, and they rape, the kids of the UK. Which, by the way, statistically speaking, there has been an increase in rape, and statistically speaking, it doesn't come from the white Anglo-Saxon. I'm just putting it out there, okay? So, and due to these, and by the way, and this is what's mind-blowing, again, verifiable facts are going to land you in jail. So we're at a point right now in the 1984 kind of series where, for real, truth is criminalized. It's criminalized, yeah. So this one is, again, that's insane. And yes, this is what we're heading towards in Canada. This is like code red. This is like alert, alert, alert. Okay, we're going to die. This one too, okay?
What, you're taking me away now?
Yes, so you're under arrest, so you're going to Harrogate, unfortunately.
You're taking me to Harrogate in the middle of the night over a tweet?
I am, unfortunately.
Is this what you signed up the police to do?
So this man is being arrested in the middle of the night for a tweet. I don't care what the fuck the tweet is, by the way. I don't give a fuck. It could be the most vile thing. It could be like, I don't know.
I hate everybody.
Oh, I hate everybody. I'm openly saying it. I'm preemptively sending myself to jail. The worst part is this is going to come up one day. I will be sent to jail for that. This is insane. No, but I mean, it could be something like really disgusting. Like, think of the most evil thing. Like, I believe pedophiles should have the right to rape kids. Okay, like really vile, right? Insanely, insanely vile. And guess what? You should not even be arrested for that, because speech, and this is what I'm trying to get to, right? Speech should be absolute. Okay, this is my notes right there. Yeah, but free speech should be absolute. So you see how it's done behind the scenes. But yeah,
Must be absolute.
must be. Yeah, free speech. Sorry, thank you, man. Free speech must be absolute, unless we lose the ability to say anything, because it's a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
The second you allow the government to police speech, even if it's done with proper intent. Maybe today's government has good intent, but who's to say the next government is not going to utilize it? And by the way, to everyone, this means the other side that you don't like. So all the liberals who think, you know what, it's good to go against hate speech because conservatives are fucking hateful. If one day there's a conservative government that comes in place, and by the way, I will be against them utilizing hate speech laws to arrest you, but who's to say they're not going to use it against you? And I'm against it, but I'm just saying, don't trust governments. Ultimately, that's what it is. Do not trust governments to police your fucking speech.
Well, look at it. Let's take a look back. I mean, let's zoom out and look at what's actually going to happen in the UK. Have you seen what the Prime Minister has announced about digital ID?
Yeah, so tell us a little.
Well, let's so essentially the Prime Minister of the UK has announced that if you do not conform and sign up to get a digital ID, you do not have the right to work in the UK. This is a country, and this applies to so many Western democracies. These countries, these governments, they can't balance a budget. They can't pay down our debt. They can't handle immigration. They can't handle the public services. It's an absolute disaster, and we've showcased that very clearly today. They can't handle these things, but I need a digital ID to work at Starbucks. I need to comply to their failing system to work at Starbucks just to survive. The part that bothers me the most about this is that humans and Canadians and liberals and all these people have become so desensitized to this government overreach that it's like they're not even aware that it's happening to this extent. And it's like the frog in a boiling water analogy. Have you ever heard that analogy?
Yeah, but
I'll share it with our viewers. Essentially, if you take a frog and put it in boiling water, it knows it's going to die, so it jumps out immediately. But if you put it in cold water and slowly boil it, and it slowly gets warmer and warmer, it's not going to realize the gradual shifts in temperature, and essentially it's just going to sit in the water until it boils to death.
Yeah, it doesn't react to the slow shift.
Exactly. Right? And so this is how this insidious legislation kind of affects, this is kind of how this insidious legislation really sneaks into society. It doesn't sneak, like you said earlier, it's not just going to be, oh yeah, we're taking away your rights.
Never, you can't.
It's just going to slip in through these, oh, we're trying to help you do this. We're trying to protect you from your emotions. And it's absolutely pathetic that as liberals, as citizens of a country, you are not aware of this. You're not paying attention to these things, and you're just allowing it to happen. And this happened in the COVID too, where they tied your ability to survive, because when you tie, when you mandate a certain action and say you're not allowed to work if you do not comply with this action, you're essentially saying your survival is gone. Because people work to survive. People work to pay their bills.
They go after their livelihood.
Exactly. This is what they did during the COVID era. They said you can't work if you don't take the vaccine, whether you want it or not, whether it affects your health in a negative way or not, there's absolutely no nuance. You're taking it whether you like it or not. And if you don't take it, you're not allowed to work. Let's go back to tribal society for a second. Okay? This thought experiment. Abuga abuga, okay? Imagine in abuga abuga, I tell you, abuga abuga, if you don't do this, you cannot go hunt for your food. You cannot feed your family, because that's why people work. You cannot hunt for your food. You're going to take a rock and club me in the head until you can go hunt for your food. No one's stopping you from hunting for your food.
That's a hate crime because you're Indian.
But liberals and these unaware citizens, it's not just liberals, it's conservatives, it's everybody. I'm kind of taking a shot at the liberals because they kind of represent this movement rather.
They do.
These people are so clueless and unaware. They don't want to pay attention to these things, and it's the frog in the boiling water.
There's another thing too. It's called the Overton window. The Overton window is basically what's accepted in society, right? And you can never. An idea can be completely outside of the Overton window, but it can be pushed slowly but surely to become acceptable and the mainstream. And we've seen this as well. Like I said, the Rona era was a great thing. You know, I remember like growing up learning about history of like Nazi Germany and people saying like, well, if such a thing was happening today, I would never denounce my neighbor that he was a Jew, right? Okay, cool. But we turn into a society where you denounce your neighbor for having family members over when they weren't supposed to. It's one and the same, right? We push you over to the window all the way there. To end on C-9 though, okay, because the UK, we shit on it because the UK is really the one implementing a lot of those crazy laws right now. But it's important to note that the countries with the highest numbers of arrest for online comments in 2023. Okay, well, let's start with like the big, like Hungary is at 10. Okay, you know what? Maybe it was like a death threat, right? You made a death threat on someone, you were arrested. Okay, Azerbaijan, which is probably not the most democratic country, is 13. Saudi Arabia, which is definitely not the most democratic country, is at 15. Egypt, 20. Vietnam, 45. The US, 50, which
Vietnam,
is
a communist country.
a communist.
45.
That's a great fucking one. Vietnam, a communist country, 45 arrests for online comments. The US with 340 million people, 50, right? So on and so forth. We get to the United Kingdom. Guess how many?
Tell us.
12,183 arrests for online comments in 2023. That is twice the amount of Belarus, a dictatorial authoritarian regime, at 6,205, more than China at 1,500, more than Russia. We love to say Russia, they're mean, they're bad. Putin's a dictator. Only 400 in Russia. Russia seems like a free speech heaven compared to the United Kingdom. This is what people don't fucking realize. This is ludicrous, and it's coming to your neighborhood real quick. It will with the passing of C-9. So hopefully people realize we will be criminalizing in Canada speech and comments that you have online against things you disagree. For example, if you disagree against Hamas or Palestine, and right now Canada recognizes Palestine, would that be considered a hate crime? Perhaps. So right now, all the Jewish population that is opposed Palestinian becoming, a recognized state, right to the gulag, right? If I disagree with liberals' fiscal policy and I say that, you know what, it's putting too much of a strain on Canada, will I be considered to be an enemy of the state and arrested? Maybe.
It's possible.
So that's C-9 for you. It's very important that people realize these things.
It's crazy because they compromise human survival if you don't comply. They compromise your ability to survive in the world if you don't comply to their system. That's what the left has fundamentally become. The party of comply or suffer.
But that's what it is, right? It's authoritarianism.
Absolutely.
That is the base of it. And what really bothers me is liberals don't even realize it. And we spoke about it. Actually, no, I made a video just like on my own talking about how something like upwards of 69% of journalists that assign that, 69% of journalists that lean left or that self-represent themselves as leftists do not believe that both sides of a story requires equal coverage. These are the arbiter of truth, the guardians of our democracy, they like to say, right? You rely on them for the information you digest every day, and 69% of them do not believe you deserve both sides. Now, for journalists who identify to the right, that number is like 11%. And I'm against those 11%, by the way, because I believe strongly to the bottom of my heart, my core, that every freaking story should deserve both sides. There are biases in everything, and people should be presented all the facts to make up their fucking mind. Right? Am I crazy for this? Apparently.
I find people are not competent enough to actually assess what the truth is to present it to people. I don't know. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah, people are going to hate me. I say this, and I'm very frank about it. I do believe that most people are mediocre. I mean, look, mediocrity by definition is pretty much being average, and most people are average. But the problem is that the average person does not believe themselves to be, and this applies to perception of beauty, this applies to perception of intelligence, and this applies to just overall all things you may consider value of your character. The average person sees themselves as above average, not top, not bottom, but above average, which is mathematically impossible. You cannot have most people see themselves as above average. That defeats the purpose of average, right? But let's talk a little bit about the state of Canada, right? Let's bring it. Let's stay. Yeah, well, we're in the UK now. We're back to Canada, right? Because when we came into the office today, the studio today, which is an office, you started telling me all the freaking organizations that were on strike and all the things that are going wrong, and I'm like, you know what? That's a good kind of summary what's the state of Canada? Like the state of the union, but the state of Canada today, beginning of October, Q4 2025. So tell us a little bit, like who's on strike, why, what for?
So Canadians pay a tremendous amount of taxes for public services, right?
Yep.
For quality healthcare, a postal service that
Did you say
that
quality
works.
healthcare?
Quality healthcare.
Whoa.
You know, this is why we pay taxes for a strong, robust social security net.
Supposedly,
this is historically, this is what Canadians have accepted to pay a higher level of taxation than our American counterparts in the South. Canadians have accepted to pay slightly more, well, not slightly, significantly more taxes for a robust social healthcare, for a robust social system.
Yep.
We don't have that right now. Canada Post is on strike, and they went on strike last year during critical times.
Third strike.
Yeah. It's almost every year. I ship with Canada Post. I have an online business. I ship with Canada Post, and I overnight have to completely relocate my entire business because they cannot come to an agreement. And so people will say, yeah, but you know, the rights and this and that. Well, when your government is printing money, like a lot of these people are social workers, they lean left, they vote left. But you're not aware that the government is completely destroying our dollar, which is why your wages are falling apart. And so you want to vote liberal? Go ahead. This is what you get. And
So Canada Post is on strike.
Canada Post is on strike. STM is on strike in Montreal. We're in Montreal.
So the STM, just so people know, right? It's our public transit system.
Yes. CARM. This is one of the worst ones. Okay. We need thriving businesses, and in Canada we trade, we import, we export. The Canadian government has created a new program called CARM to manage import declarations, export declarations, and all this.
All the duty stuff, right?
Exactly. Duty, tariffs, taxes. To arrange, to simplify it, they created an online platform similar to ArriveCan, which we know what a disaster that app was. They created a new website. So I am a frequent importer, and I sometimes export. So I'm constantly using this service.
Yeah.
When the service came out, okay, this is to overhaul an immigration system, an importation system.
Yeah.
Okay, they completely decided to overhaul it to make it more digital. So you can log on online, you can create your declarations online.
At face value, it sounds good.
Sounds great.
Yes.
It does save some time for me when I'm creating my declarations to do it online before I go to the border. However, the servers crash all the time. There are bugs in the system, and you know, if it was a simple little system, a little program that, we're just launching the system, it has some bugs and quirks. No, this is the import, the app, the program that manages imports and exports in Canada. So if this system goes down, major companies cannot even import their it causes massive delays at the border, massive tensions between Canadians and border workers. And
is there redundancy? Is there a backup? Can you like go back to paper in the event of a system crash?
There is. However, they used to have a robust system that you could use with DOS. You know, it was a very simple rudimentary system they created decades ago that was used up until, a year and a half ago. Just the onboarding, they messed up the onboarding process for most companies and people, and you can look this up online. People did not get a call. You had to call the Canadian government, their offices, to get them to give you the correct information to properly onboard on the system. And that process took me 4 months. I was not able to import products for my business for 4 months.
Jeez.
Okay. And you want to talk about destroying my business? That completely threw me off. It slowed down my whole process. And so this is something that's happening on a regular basis. And this is something we pay taxes for. We pay taxes for systems like this to work the way they're intended.
But that's the thing, right? Is that all these systems do not effing work. It's just not going well. And I took a little look. Okay, I saw this statistic, this passing by, comparing Canada to Saudi Arabia. The amount of time that I get into, I don't want to say online comments, but a lot of people sometimes, because I think you and I are both very, very strict on taxes. Like we're tough on it, right? We're very much against taxes. And the number one comment I get from people that for some reason love taxes, they're like, it's the cost of having a society. We would not be able to have free stuff without society. Police would collapse and firefighters would not be there and the roads would not be there. And I have to remind these people that, wait a second, taxes is not the only way that a government can finance itself. And there are several countries in the world that do not levy either any taxes, or if they do levy taxes, it is considerably lower than Canada. So let's compare a little bit. Two countries, let's call it this, okay? The tale of two nations, okay?
Okay.
Or we can also say, let this sink in, Canada. The Canadian population is 40 million-ish. It's kind of hard to tell because of the amount of immigration. Maybe we're 42, 43, who knows? But let's go with 40 million, right? Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is 38 million. It's a fairly comparable country in terms of size. There's not much of a difference. Now, Canada, and as we know, actually, let's go with Saudi Arabia first. Saudi Arabia is a huge oil exporter, right? It is like they're the rise to riches. They're the second largest oil reserve in the entire world. Second largest, right? That's huge. They also have a lot of silica. I mean, you're in the middle of the desert, you have very high-grade silica, sand, basically, and it's used in a bunch of processes. But Saudi Arabia's wealth is based on these two commodities, these two assets. Meanwhile, Canada, we have oil. And we're the third largest proven oil reserve in the world, the third largest, right back in Saudi Arabia. We have forestry, shit ton of lumber, right? We have coal, we have hydroelectricity, we have natural gas, we have fisheries, we have diamond, we have copper, we have nickel, we have iron ore, we have aluminum, we have silver. We have so many natural resources, way more than Saudi Arabia, right? Well, Saudi Arabia's national debt is $260 billion. Compared to Canada's national debt of $2.1 trillion. That is exponentially higher. Now, Saudi Arabia, I mean, I'm sure it collects taxes, right? Nope. Personal income tax in Saudi Arabia is a fat 0%. Meanwhile, the national average per person in Canada is 40%. Sales taxes, well, they just instituted a sales tax in Saudi Arabia, right? On par with Canada's sales tax, 13%. But for the longest time, for decades and decades, there was zero sales tax. Now, here's what we get in exchange. We get really not much in Canada that works. We just mentioned this. Nothing works in Canada. But, yeah, sure, we have free healthcare. Well, Saudi Arabia also has free healthcare. But Saudi Arabia, on top of that, not only do they operate, fire stations and police stations and border security and an actual army, by the way, not a ragdoll like 3 boats and a plastic pew gun, but they also offer financial support directly to their citizens. All the resources that they're extracting, they are giving all that wealth back to the people. In which way? Well, we're talking about, for example, they offer financial support for housing. Saudi Arabians receive let me say this again. Saudi Arabians, when they want to go buy a property, a home, right? In Canada, we complain we can't afford homes. They're too expensive. So our government instead is going to build them, right? And we're not even going to talk about that right now. In Saudi Arabia, the government will give you approximately $150,000 to put towards your first property. That's cash money to buy your first property. But if you don't want to buy an existing property instead, and you want to build your own home, well, the government has a program called the Free Land Plots. And it's a program that regularly announces the availability of free residential land plots for beneficiary citizens.
So where does the government derive their revenue from? Where do they get their revenue from?
All those fucking resources. It's crazy. It's like almost like if you when you extract your resources and export them and sell it to the world, you can finance the government for the benefits of the citizen. But wait, it's not done, right? They also subsidize a crap ton of things for the citizens. So for example, they receive gasoline and other energy subsidies. So to give you an idea, in Canada, right, at least in Montreal right now, gasoline hovers around $1.50 a liter. It's 58 cents per liter in Saudi Arabia. 58 cents per liter, right? Energy for your home, same thing. It's subsidized. The government gives you a bunch of benefits, and yet we have the same population, but we have probably 1,000 times more wealth potential locked in our ground that we refuse to
Per
touch.
capita.
Per capita, exactly. And yet we are indebted almost 100 times more, almost 100 times more indebted, and we offer nothing for free to people that they don't offer. They offer more to their citizen than we receive. And on top of that, they're not taxed on their income, whereas we pay nearly half of our income to taxes.
Have you ever gone to a hospital in those countries?
Never.
Okay. Countries in Asia, these countries, the healthcare system is far superior to ours.
Mm-hmm.
In Quebec, I have a bunch of news headlines that I've been storing for many, many years over the healthcare system in Canada.
Yeah.
We're in Quebec, so we know how it is in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see some of these headlines about our healthcare system? Like, we pay so much into it.
Yeah, of course.
Quebec man dies after waiting 2 hours for ambulance. Okay.
Nice.
This is as per Montreal Flex TV.
Mm-hmm.
11 hours without care. Quebec coroner cites hospitals' organizational failures in senior's death. This is June 29th, 2025. Man, 39, who died after giving up on 6-hour ER wait should have been prioritized as per the coroner.
Jesus.
March 31st, 2025. Man dies after waiting 16 hours in Quebec hospital to see a doctor. This
16
It's shocking.
hours.
It's
16
shocking. We pay so much into our tax system. Canadians are some of the most taxed citizens on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And we cannot even have a robust healthcare system, a robust public transit system, a robust postal service,
We don't even
a
have a
robust
postal service.
import system, a robust government that can actually not indebt this country. Imagine paying this much taxes and they're still drowning us in deeper in debt.
Well, no, imagine
You cited Saudi Arabia, $200 billion, similar population. We're at $2 trillion national debt in Canada.
Yeah.
With much more natural resources, are a freer society, and we cannot even handle our business a little bit better.
And this is what, okay, so Canadians are so content with mediocrity. And I hear this all the time. Yeah, well, at least we're not Afghanistan. Congratulations.
Or worse, apparently.
You know, we need to start holding ourselves to a higher standard, right? We need to realize that we have so much potential. And I've been saying this for over 2 years. The first time ever I was on camera on this show, I said Canada could be so rich. And I compared it to Norway. And I've done a deep dive, Norway versus Canada. And now this was with Saudi Arabia. We have so much potential. But Canada chooses to be poor. We choose to be poor. So next time you hit a pothole and your fucking rim blows up, or next time you're waiting in the ER for 24 hours, or next time you can't get your passport on time because the passport office is shut down, or next time you expect a very important package but Canada Post won't deliver it and you receive another 60th email from your bank saying, during the strike, the postal strike, log in online instead. Realize that this is all self-inflicted. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
It comes down to culture. You know what they say is politics is downstream from culture. When you have a culture of people that are more focused on, capitalist endeavors, and I'm just going to say it like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're offended by the word capitalism. Okay. If you have a civilian base that is very industrious.
Yes.
They learn about their economics. They learn their math. They learn their business. They learn that deficits are bad. They learn that debt is bad and that it causes inflation and devalues your currency and devalues your work, and that tax systems have to be fair in order for there to be business opportunity for foreign investment, for foreign businesses that want to open in Canada, for even domestic businesses. You want to start a business, it should be accessible. But it is not in this country. Oh, yeah. And if there's no economic opportunity for entrepreneurs to create a business, well, that destroys job growth.
Absolutely.
We don't create a lot of jobs by having this heavy taxation system. We have a huge bureaucracy that is just getting bigger and bigger and accomplishing less and less and failing our key infrastructures.
I think it's because, okay, a lot of Canadians, when you talk about business, right? Because it's so not something that like resonates with Canadians. They're always like, businesses, fuck them, tax them, you know, we need to tax
Yeah.
corporation more. Because they have this idea of in their head of like the Fortune 500 companies, right? The reality is that the backbone of the economy of the country is small to medium
medium-sized
enterprise.
business. Yeah.
It's a guy like you. It's a guy like me. It's a guy like it is very office we're in right now. It's companies with 250 employees or less, right? And in most cases, we're talking 3 to 5 employees, by the way. We're talking small operations. That is the cornerstone of our economy. And the amount of regulation, of compliance, of taxes, of layers of governmental paperwork that needs to be done is
don't even get me into it.
ludicrous.
You want to talk about the board? This is just a personal
Go
story. I'm just
ahead.
going to share it.
Yes,
Just the
please.
contrast to the viewers. Yesterday, this happened actually yesterday to me.
Scoop,
okay, this is
scoop.
right fresh off the press.
Fresh
okay,
off the press. Steaming still. It's still hot.
So like I said, I do frequent imports, right?
Yes.
And CARM there was a bug in the system. CARM, the import program that we were talking about earlier, was down
Yeah.
for the whole country.
Oh.
Okay, I had to call Canada Border CBSA
Mm-hmm.
to escalate the case. It took me, and I called their commercial line. Okay, I call the commercial line. They tell me you're in the what's the opposite commercial? Personal.
Yes.
You're in the personal line.
Yes.
So I have to transfer you to the commercial. It took me 30 minutes just to connect to this operator who says, "Oh, sorry, wrong department. Got to transfer you."
Nice.
So just contacting them was a nightmare. Took me about an hour to get in touch with an agent that kind of was aware of the situation.
Did you speak like that, my friend?
No. It was a Canadian, fortunately enough.
They're all Canadians. We're all Canadians.
Yeah.
Different kinds of Canadians. We're all Canadian. But yeah. So
More Canadian. I don't know. Oh, no, I'm gonna get shut down for that one. I'm gonna get shut down for that. Hate crime.
C-9,
Hate crime.
right to jail.
Yeah. But anyways, it was let's just say it was an English accent. It was a Canadian English accent on the other side of the phone.
Nice.
And she's on the phone. She doesn't know the issues. She couldn't figure it out. Okay, they got it figured out maybe 3-4 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I've wasted the first 8 hours of my day just trying to get this paperwork together. Okay? To then go to the border, they inspect my stuff. No problem, no issues. But it took forever. And so my entire day was spent complying with the government.
Ugh.
For a system, like the first 4 hours, 6 hours of it was a complete failure on their part. But then they think that they have the authority to like
Scolded
wave
you.
their finger at you if you did something wrong. It's just like the hypocrisy is egregious.
Well, okay, so I love this hypocrisy, by the way, okay? Because, okay, if you've ever been a business owner, you understand that you have to file sales taxes, right? TPS, TVQ, as we call it, GST and QST. And for example, like different companies have to report differently. For us, it was quarterly, right? So every 3 months, you get a report. Now, if you're late on your reporting, the penalty is insane. It goes like, if you're 7 days late, it's something like 50% of the amount you owe goes on penalty. It's ridiculous. It's an insane amount, right? So they really, really, really want to make sure you better give us our money, right? This is our money that you're holding on in trust every quarter. You remit that shit, or else we're going to slap you with the long schlong of the law. But the flip side is that oftentimes when you file on time, the government will take weeks, months, I've seen years to release your funds if you're asking them for money back. So let's say it was like a negative quarter and you spent more than you took in sales, whatever, you're entitled to credits. And they're not going to give you anything more for it.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
It's always rules for thee, but not for me. I think all of this, though, in Canada, the big issue is that it stems from education. And it's interesting because when you spoke about Yuri Bezmenov, he mentioned that step number 1 is to control the youth, right? It's to control or subvert an entire generation. That takes 15 to 20 years. So you need to infiltrate the education system. And that's a discussion I've had before. I don't, at least my time in school, and I think it was probably the same with you, your time in school, right? I went to a French school most of my life, and I'm sure it's the same in an English school. But there was absolutely no courses or education or time spent on understanding, for example, the Charter of Rights and Freedom of Canada at all, or the Canadian Constitution. Now, this is the cornerstone of our society. This needs to be guarded. And the thing too is this, we think, oh, because laws are written on a piece of paper, or like laws are there, it's going to protect you. No, laws are nothing more than words on a piece of fucking paper. They mean nothing without an institution behind it defending it. And an institution is comprised, I should say, not compromised. Sometimes it is both. It is comprised of individuals. So if the individual is not aware and not competent, but responsible enough and courageous enough to uphold those laws, then in the end, we have no laws, we have no rights, we have no protection, no constitution. And it's so easy to infringe and to step and to sidestep your constitutional rights if the citizen do not even know they exist to begin with. I bet you if we went in the streets and we took anyone from grade 10 all the way to a doctorate level post-grad student, or even just an adult, and you stopped them and said, can you name me 3 chartered rights? They would not be able to name a fucking single one aside from, they'll say something like freedom of speech, which is not even a freedom in our chartered rights. We have freedom of expression, which is, in my mind, worse because expression and speech, 2 different things. So, or you tell them what is Article 1 of the Charter, and they don't even know it. And that's basically the article that gives the right to the government to just trample your freaking rights to begin with. People are not aware. Same thing with the economics or finance or the economic system. People are not taught anything about taxes. And this is a theory I've had. This is an idea. Like if I was to become prime minister, which I would never because I'm unelectable, but
vote for Elliot.
Fuck, yeah. But let's
the far right.
Yeah, the far right. I'm a fucking Nazi. But let's play like the first thing I would do actually to help, because to this very day, so many people exhibit Stockholm syndrome. They will defend the system to the death, saying it's okay to be taxed and it's right and it's good for people. And most of these
frog in boiling water.
Yeah, and most of these people, anyways. Like I was arguing with this guy, and he's just like, I'm happy to live in a system that at least gives you free healthcare. I'm like, yeah, it's easy to say that when you don't have to pay taxes because you're on the freaking welfare. But anyways, so here's my solution for fixing the brutal first government deficit that we have, and 2 crazy taxes. Because the reality is to cut down the deficit, we need to shrink the size of the government, because the government, a quarter of the population works for the government, which is really unpopular to do because, most people are not going to vote against their own. It's funny because it's their self-interest for the country, but their short-term self-interest is keeping their job. But there's a way to turn 75% of the population against those, and to allow the population to say, no, fuck it. You're going to lose your job. You're going to find a way to to make yourself up again, and we're going to shrink this shit. This is what we do. Next year, whenever it's time to file your taxes, what we do is that we actually make it for an entire year. Taxes are 0. There's no source deduction, right? You as an employer, me as an employer, whenever we pay our employees, we do not deduct a single penny of income tax. We do not deduct a single Quebec pension plan or Canadian pension plan or Quebec parental insurance plan or employment insurance or, these are all the deductions we had to take, right? You keep 100% of your money. But next tax season, the government calculates how much it's spent for the entire year, and then proportionally, and this is easier to do with computers, proportionally on the income that you've declared, you receive a tax bill and you must pay. You got 30 days. Let's see people now rebel, get up, pitchfork, go down the fucking street and protest.
You're about to get arrested, bro.
People would take to the streets in a heartbeat. Imagine you earned, and I'm going to take a cool 100K, which is not even that much nowadays, but still a cool 100K. You kept 100K in your pocket. You lived the entire year on 100K. And then at the end of the year, the government sends you a nice fat bill for your share of the expenditures.
Of the public spending.
Yes. And by the way, may I add, the entire share of the public spending. No taking on debt. It's a balanced budget. It's a zero-sum game. There's a good chance you receive a $70,000, a $75,000, an $80,000 bill if they cannot borrow against it, by the way. I bet you overnight people would ask for reform. Overnight, they would say shrink the size of the government. Overnight, we would go through every line item in the Canadian budget and say, done, DEI, done, fucking sending money to Ukraine, done, fucking hiring a quarter of the population to tweedle their fucking thumb and stick a thumb up their ass, done. overnight.
Clever way to think about it.
We're done.
Thank you for sharing that.
There you go. Saved Canada. Saved Canada. No, it would never happen, obviously.
No.
All right. So government shutdown in the US. Okay, speaking of government that's not working right now, we're just going to cover this really quickly. Yeah, we're good on time for now. The US government is shut down. Okay, people don't realize this, but you need to pass budget bills every fucking year. And the US has a way to do this because oftentimes they pass a budget and then they go over budgets. They're doing better than us, but they also have a little bit of a bloated inflationary issue over there. And the government goes way over. So periodically, Congress needs to pass what they call continuing resolutions. Continuing resolutions are basically stopgaps in the budget. It's basically saying, here's an extra amount of money appropriation you can do to keep paying people or else you cannot. So that normally happens without any fanfare, kind of just done routinely, and there's no problem. Nobody even knows about it. But sometimes sides don't agree, and some sides can start being a little bit more radical, and they refuse to pass the CR, the continuing resolution, and it forces the government to shut down. And when I say shut down, I mean literally shut down. The government has no more money to pay people. So currently, the US government is shut down because Congress failed to pass a appropriations bill to fund the federal departments and agencies for the new fiscal year, which began October 1st. The immediate deadlock centers on a dispute over healthcare spending, primarily between the Republican-controlled Congress and the Democratic side. So the Democrats refused to pass a short-term funding bill unless it included policy provisions on healthcare. This is right now in the Senate. It's stuck in the Senate. 55 Republicans want it to pass, 45 Democrats don't, and you need 60 votes to pass this thing. But you may think, okay, well, it's for healthcare. It must be good. No. The provision they're not telling you about is that the Democrats want the U.S. government to keep funding healthcare for illegal aliens. That's what it is. Because the Trump admin in his big, beautiful bill cut the shit, slashed the hell out of it and said no more funding healthcare for illegal aliens, right? Keep in mind, illegal aliens, let's call them what they really are. They're criminals. By definition, you've entered a country illegally, you are committing a crime. And yet, the Democrats, the liberals, the socialists of this world want to provide free healthcare. And right now they're holding Americans hostage in order to provide criminals healthcare. That's what they think of you. That's what they think of you as like a common citizen. You're just a pawn in their freaking entire game. And keep in mind, the US is $37 trillion in debt. I'm sure they don't have the money to fund these freaking illegal aliens. And just so you know what 37 trillion is, it's $37,000 billion, or if you prefer, it's $37 million. It is an insane level of money, right? So right now, 750,000 750,000 federal workers are furloughed, which is insane. So that means things like the TSA, right? So the security guards at the airports, border patrol, the military, those are considered essential and they continue to work, but they go without pay. So they're forced to go to work, slavery, without pay. Now, if and when they pass the bill, they're going to get recompensated. But in the meantime, they're not getting paid. And everyone else, 750,000 workers, pop, to the street, gone, no more work.
What do you think about that?
Well, ultimately, look, it's always stupid fucking politics, right? And I can't understand why one side fights so hard to defend people that are not even their citizen. They fight so hard all the time to help everyone else but their own people. The parallels in Canada is that we're sending 40 billions to Ukraine and X amount to Israel and X amount to fucking Congo and Benin and all these countries to fund God knows what kind of programs. Meanwhile, we have homeless people here. Meanwhile, food bank usage is the highest in decades here. People are going broke, hungry, can't afford a home. They're forgoing having families because they just can't afford the necessities for their own self. And we're always constantly helping others. That's what one side of the aisle is doing. The other side is saying, let's prioritize ourselves, right? I like the I think it was Peterson who said that, Jordan Peterson. He says, like, first, you got to take care of your own family, like yourself. Get your life in order, get your shit in order. Then you can help your family. Then you can help your community. But to think that you can help the entire world when you can't even get your own little microcosm is crazy. And just to give you an idea, because the Democrats are all saying, it's Trump's fault, it's Trump's fault. No. The Democrats refuse to pass this unless they give illegal aliens free money. But it's important to note that this is not the first time it's happened, right? So the last 6 times it's happened, it was, for example, there was one time under Jimmy Carter, which totaled 56 days that the government was shut down. The most of any president. That's a Democrat, by the way.
Didn't happen under Biden as well?
Never happened under Biden, but it happened twice under Clinton. For 26 days total. Obama, it happened for Obama as well in 2013, 16 days, because Obama was holding out. He was refusing, so the Democrats were refusing to do or to pass anything unless it included money for Obamacare, which was a shit show. So that's the US right now. They're not doing any better. It's just happening down there. Man, like, is it me? Like, I have this... You tell me what you think, okay? But it just feels like everything's coming to a head. It just feels like
To an end?
A head. It's like a day of reckoning. Mm-hmm. It's just things are happening around the world, and it just feels like a reckoning is coming. Is it just it's my personal feeling?
No, I'm totally on board with what you're saying. It's going to start with finances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finances, people tend to neglect the economy and economic what do they call it? Economic shifts.
Yes.
So people tend to neglect economic shifts, and as a result, it's like I would say it's like smoking cigarettes every day. Essentially, there's an adverse effect that compounds over time that causes a collapse. And
that's a good point. It's tiny little things compounding over time.
Absolutely.
Well, do you see a way for Canada to get out of this shit show that we're in?
In the current state, with the mentality of the people, with the way people are with the way people are thinking, I don't think so.
No.
I think there's going to be a huge financial crisis in this country. I think I don't think the dollar is going to recover personally. I think the dollar is going to go to the 60s and stay in the 60s.
So how do you think it's going to play out? Aside from the fact that the currency is going to obviously lose value, what else is
mortgage, you were talking about insolvencies spiking up. Well, when insolvencies spike up, the whole financial system collapses. You know, people aren't paying their debts. It has a domino effect. And so,
but I mean, that's okay. So that's a good point. Let's just touch on this real quick, because I was talking to an individual the other day, and he was saying, you know what, I'd still rather be Canadian because at least nobody in Canada is going bankrupt due to medical debt, right? There's no medical bankruptcy in Canada. At least we got that. Congratulations. And it got me thinking. I was like,
what about normal bankruptcies?
Yeah, but that's what I wanted to know, right? So I did a little bit of a dive because I'm just like, okay, it's true. Some Americans go into medical debt and bankruptcy. First of all, you have to understand, in the US, roughly 7% of the population is uninsured. It's 7% too much, but they're not the poor and needy. A lot of people that are medically uninsured, one, it's either a choice or they fall in this little narrow gap, right? Because if you're employed, like every employer in the US provides you medical insurance. And if you're unemployed or you're broke or you're on welfare, you get Medicaid or Medicare or TRICARE in the US. They have plenty of government services for healthcare in the US, okay? Plenty. People don't know that. But there's a small sliver, oftentimes self-employed people, by the way. Oftentimes self-employed people that make enough that they're not considered capable, or they're not qualifying for Medicaid, so they're not broke. But they're not, again, since their companies maybe
wealthy.
They're not so wealthy that they can't necessarily afford it, right? They fall in that sliver, and that's not good. There's got to be a solution for this. But at the same time, the average American is taxed considerably, and I mean considerably less than Canadians, and they have a heck of a lot more disposable income. So if they're and the cost of living in most cities is also much lower than Canada. Significantly lower. So if you have an ounce of personal responsibility, you are in a better position economically, and you can put money aside in case of medical needs. But I just started thinking, okay, knowing that Canada is the average Canadian is under so much strain due to the insane level of taxation, and our dollar is so weak, and our economy is sputtering, and our unemployment rate is going up month by month, quarter by quarter, and our productivity is down to shitter compared to the US. I'm like, okay, we're not doing good.
Youth unemployment,
that's a big one as well. So I decided to look at the insolvency rate Canada versus the US, because you know what? Fine, let's see. So the US has right now, for the year 2024, a insolvency rate of 1.4 per 1,000 people. That's personal insolvency. We're not talking corporate here, right? So I'm like, okay, that's not bad. And I assumed, honestly, Canada would be around there as well. I don't know why. Because I'm like, okay, well, in the US, they have medical. Yeah, sure, again, their economy is doing better. But like, it's true. They do have medical insolvency, which enters in this number, by the way. And then I looked it up for Canada. And for the 12-month, and it made me cry, I think, deep down inside. For so many of us, I wept. For the 12-month period ending in December 31st, 2024, the personal insolvency rate in Canada was approximately 3.3 per 1,000. That is more than double the US insolvency rate. So no, even though nobody's going bankrupt for medical bills, no, people are just going bankrupt from living, from fucking daily life, because the burden we have, our economy is so shit, our incomes are lower, and our tax burden is ridiculously higher, leaving people with very little disposable income. The cost of living is skyrocketing, which causes people to start using debt, lines of credit, personal loans, credit card, to try to make ends meet, to try to tie the deficit at the end. We spoke about the deficit.
So you asked me earlier, what do I think is going to happen in Canada?
Yes, please tell me. Please.
So the Carney Liberals are failing Canada in their promise in cutting spending.
Yes.
Their forecasted budget is coming in at significantly higher than Trudeau's budget. I think they're forecasting, 69 billion, something like this, right around there. This is pretty much like astronomical compared to even Justin Trudeau, who was also a monster on that front, like these massive growing deficits. If you look at historically, the real deficits started coming in 2019, 2020. Trudeau's deficits were not that bad when he started.
And keep in mind, by the way, he inherited a surplus.
Yes. So his deficits were slow. They started increasing, and now Carney's deficits are about to blow it out of the water. And we had the COVID
spending.
We had the COVID spending. And so we learned a lot about economic factors during the COVID spending. Economists knew this, but people were not paying attention. And so they're going to run massive deficits, meaning we're going to have inflation. They're going to need to print money to pay these deficits, or they're going to have to get more in debt. Those are the only ways to find, or increase taxes, which they could do.
Where? How?
What income?
Yeah.
What income are you taxing, bro? Okay, let's continue.
You can't draw blood from a rock, man.
Exactly. And so what's going to happen in inflation? Same thing that happened during COVID. Deficit spending, money printing, more debt, more inflation.
Yeah.
That we learned that.
Absolutely.
We already know that. If you don't know that, you're a moron at this point.
Absolutely.
Okay? Or you're not, or you're just a child. You don't know anything.
That too.
You're either a moron, you're completely living under a rock. That's
but again,
it.
The education system never teaches you that.
It's your responsibility as an individual with the technology that we have to do your math homework. That's my perspective. Okay. I'm tired of this soft, I don't have we have AI. We live in a society where we have AI now. We have all the information. We have Wikipedia for the last 20 years. Learn your economics, buddy. You're a citizen of the country. Learn the economics. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you talk about a big deficit, the stock market is tanking. People are actually freaking out when the country is reporting a deficit. But apparently now it doesn't really matter. But anyways, so debt is going to skyrocket. So what's going to happen to the dollar? It's going to plummet. So what does that do to, how does that apply? How does that impact citizens? So first of all, we already live in a country where most taxpayers cannot buy a home. They're barely scraping by to pay their rent, which has pretty much doubled in the last decade. Well, what's going to happen to rental income when immigration continues? What's going to happen to rent prices when they keep bringing in immigrants? It's going to keep going up. Okay, food inflation. Food inflation is going to continue. Right? We've seen the trend in the last 5-6 years. Well, what's going to happen with more deficit spending and money printing? Well, food's going to be higher. So this is core necessities that are going to become almost unaffordable if things continue on this trajectory, which the Carney Liberals have shown no actual tangible solutions to drive us away from that. And so
where does it lead?
Where does it lead? It leads to people being destitute and poor and then literally dying of poverty. I'm sorry to make it so heavy and drastic, and people will call me an alarmist or whatever, but if you're struggling already to afford food and the Carney Liberals keep printing more than the Trudeau Liberals, it stands to reason that your food and your home is going to become so expensive that you will not be able to afford it. And you will not be able to afford any alternatives. The Carney Liberals housing platform of building these small homes for $3 million each, it's egregious. Like, people are not aware of this. And what is it going to do? It's going to make your future generations poor. I'm sorry. There's no other outcome.
Unless you're a boomer, because now your $1 million home's about to become $2 million.
Oh, yeah. But you want to talk about the inherit... This brings us to... Oh, my God.
Point.
This is a great time to bring this in.
And side note, while you look for it, right?
I already got it.
Just a side note, because you said like people have AI, like it's their responsibility to figure it out. So I just went on Google's Gemini, right, which is on Grok. Grok would be like a little bit more right leaning. This is fucking Google, and I just wrote, "Is Canada's economy doing well?" And the response is no. I wish it was just no, but it's no. Canada's economy is Canada's economy is not currently performing well overall, despite showing some resilience in certain areas. A range of economic data from mid to late 2025 points to a sluggish economy, high household debt, and trade-related uncertainty, although it is expected to avoid a technical recession. We always avoid a technical recession. I don't know why. Unemployment rate rose to 7.1%. Youth unemployment reached 14.6%. That is insane.
Disgusting.
That is so bad. That's so bad. And the overall economy contracted by 0.4% in the second quarter. Okay, so we're not doing good. That was my point.
Okay. We're not. And so let's take a look at this. Children hit with $660,000 tax bill after parents die in Ontario.
Wow.
Okay. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
It's a girl. I think it was a girl. I don't remember.
I was doing that sound just because
an Ontario woman and her brother faced a $669,126 tax bill after both parents died, forcing them to drain nearly all of their parents' RRSP savings to cover it. Jeez. Now, the RRSP is taken from you against your will from your paycheck. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is like it's framed as a savings tool that it's going to be your real retirement savings program. When it came down to passing it down to your children, the government tried to take a bunch of it. And people need to be up in arms about this, but we're not.
No, but it's because the average Canadian is going to be like, yeah, but you inherited some money, so you're wealthy. Just shut the fuck up and pay your bill. That's the reaction.
The cost of living is inflated. So even if you're lucky with this inheritance, even if you're lucky to get like a chunk of it, it's going to last you like maybe 5 to 10 years, and then you're back in the gutter.
Absolutely agree with you, but the average Canadian just does not understand that. And the issue here is that we have an inheritance tax in Canada. It's not called that, but it's a rule that the CRA uses, which is called deemed disposition. So whenever someone dies, all of their assets are deemed disposed of at the day of their death. Yeah. Sold, exactly. And if the asset, carried a capital gain, then it's payable from the estate itself. The thing is that it is true that in Canada, our primary residences are sheltered from capital gains tax. However, these two individuals it was brother sister, right?
Brother sister.
Brother sister. These two individuals, the family also had a cottage, and the problem is that a cottage, and it is a problem because it should be sheltered as well, or at least it should be tax deferred. But no, it was considered to have been sold the day their parents died, and it carried a huge amount of capital gains due to that. And on top of that, the RSPs are also considered deemed disposed, and the RSPs are taxable later on because it's tax deferred. Anyways, all that to say, go ahead, blow it. I'm ready. I'm sitting down.
The government printed and flooded the country with immigration, which increased our property prices. So that when it comes to time to inherit, the people that are supposed to inherit it from their parents, their parents are gutted at when it comes time to pay that tax bill. These innocent people, this cottage should not be that expensive. They should not have to pay such a massive tax bill for just inheriting what their parents worked their entire lives to provide for their children.
Absolutely.
It doesn't go to the government.
It should not.
It shouldn't. It's completely unethical. Anyways.
It's a great point.
And take a look at this. It's one thing if you have a great economy with stable prices and there's a de facto inheritance tax.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another thing to have a decaying economy
Mm-hmm.
with runaway inflation and then putting the consequence on the taxpayer, on the citizens. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Elections have consequences. Real GDP per capita, Canada versus the United States since the Liberals came into power. The government thinks they have the right to literally take your inheritance from your family, while this is the result they have brought. Since 1995, Canada's real GDP per capita has been completely in line with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
This is why Canadians had so much pride in their country.
Shit.
But since the useless Liberals came into power, our real GDP per capita has plummeted. Look at this chart. It is clear.
That is fucked up.
And these are the people that want to take more authoritarian rights from you. They want to, force you to get a digital ID, force you to get vaccinated, force you to do this, force you to pay all these taxes for a decaying country. And they are not addressing that. They're not adapting their strategy.
That hurts to say, man. We were on par with the US.
Up until Trudeau came into power.
It's almost all by design. But at least we can take a little bit of solace, a tiny bit of solace, just a tiny bit, knowing that Canada sucks, but Europe is not doing much better right now at all.
It makes a lifelong Canadian like me, who I had so much pride in this country, I'm probably going to move to the US at some point. I'm not staying in Canada. With this tax burden, with this economic situation, with a chart like this, and the fact that Canadians are so uninformed that they still voted Liberal in the last election, with charts like this, which were already ready.
It's mostly the boomers again that voted, though. Do you think they're going to die off? Oh, it's fucked up, but do you think like once they die off, it's finally going to swing to... Because I mean, what?
I don't know. We have a lot of clueless socialists and far left lunatics who think that, take a look at this video, okay? This is a video I found that just drove me insane because this is an immigrant or probably born in Canada, but it's definitely not initially from here, whether it's first generation or second generation. And this is what she has to say about this great country.
Canada is a white supremacist, colonial, racist project, as is Israel, as is the state of Israel. So I don't even consider myself to be a Canadian.
This is the priority of some of our youth. This is where their head's at right now. They don't care about the stuff we're talking about. They don't care about these future generations, the economy. They're calling Canada a racist, misogynist. This is their level of intellect. Okay. And this is an immigrant. She has no pride in staying in Canada. She has no respect for Canada. She said it. Why are you in Canada?
Yeah, that's a good point. Why are they in Canada?
Go home where you're going to have a lot, like women's rights in the country that you're from, let's just be real, are not as great as Canada. So when you go back home, you're not even going to have the right to say this on TV.
It's a weird paradox, eh? It's a weird paradox because the left supports sometimes some of the most authoritarian and backwards regressive countries when it comes to personal freedom, yet they call themselves for personal freedom of marginalized people.
It's embarrassing.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. But ultimately, and we'll end on this last point, Canada's bad, but I think it's also just, the idea is more that the US is just doing really good because Europe, Canada and Europe, the Western world minus the US, has been castrating itself, for lack of better words, for quite a while. And we focus a lot on Canada today, and this is good for Canadians. This is what you're dealing with, but running away to Europe is not going to help. The only place you can run away, and this is what you said, Simmer, is to go to the US because Europe is falling apart. Like, it absolutely is falling apart, okay? Canada's bad, but at least we can find some solace knowing that it's just as bad in Europe. Or again, like I said, that America is just truly a world superpower. Here's 5 facts. 5 realities, brutal facts that shows just how bad Europe is compared to America. Number 1, and this applies to Canada and most of them, by the way. Okay, so this could be like a mutual Canada-Europe thing. 1, Mississippi, which is the poorest state in the Union, is now wealthier than Europe's top economy, namely the UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. Like, really, take a second to realize that The poor state has a higher per capita GDP than the top 5 European economy. And by the way, this applies to Canada as well, because Mississippi is richer than all Canadian provinces. And I see you're smiling because I'm sure you've seen the same graph, but this is an important thing to note. 2. European spending power is collapsing. The disposable income for the average American is now 80% higher than the average is for a UK or French citizen, and 50% higher than it is for a German citizen. That's your spending power, man. That's like going to the grocery store. That is buying a phone. This is taking the bus. This is putting gasoline, petrol, in your car. It's 50% higher than Germans. And Germans are pretty industrious, but 80% in the UK, that's like twice as rich. All right. 3. Was there something you wanted to?
NVIDIA is worth more than Canada.
We're going to talk about that because number 3, the European companies have stagnated. When you consider that exactly that, NVIDIA alone is worth more than Germany, France, and UK stock markets combined. It's egregious, but it's even worse in Canada because you're damn right. NVIDIA is worth more than the entire Canadian economy. Entire Canadian economy, one company.
Elbows up, baby.
Boop, boop, boop. 4. And this I've covered in a different video. Europe has the lowest fertility rate of any continent. And again, as conversed in that other video, Europe will probably cease to exist in about 100 years due to the failing fertility rate. But you have to understand that it also has a problem with the economy. It also affects the economy very directly because all these social programs that we love in Canada and in Europe, right? We love our social programs. They cannot sustain themselves if your population is aging and the new blood, the new wind is so tiny. So the only way these countries like Canada can sustain itself economically is with mass migration. And mass migration, although might slightly save you economically today, but it is an absolute death sentence when it comes to social cohesion and your cultural integrity. It destroys the fabric of society. It absolutely fucking does. And then lastly, 5. And this is sad because we talk all the time, well, the economy and the falling birth rate is going to be okay because AI is going to save us. All these technologies are going to save us. It's going to reshape the economy. Well, Europe, just like Canada, man, I swear to God, this would be a Canada-Europe thing. Well, they're not competitive in anything related to high tech, anything. There's no Canadian or European company that excels or that innovates in AI, in drone technology, in space exploration, in crypto or blockchain, or in robotics. I mean, for fuck's sakes, at least we have that in Canada. Kudos to us. But Europeans don't even have AC to begin with, all right? So you think you're going to innovate on AI, buddy? You can't even do that. So ultimately, in this, when I looked this shit up, I honestly was not even going to link it to Canada, but this applies to Canada. The US is, they say the US hegemony is, and the American world superpower stage is, or the empire is collapsing. Nah, man, you know what? When you compare it, nope, it's not collapsing.
Economic opportunity always wins, and the United States will always be a country that welcomes economic opportunity.
Ain't that the truth? And then, was there something else you wanted to discuss that we missed?
I think we covered a lot today.
We did, and now we're
from UK to Canada to the United States.
An hour and a half. Well, Simmer, thank you for being here today.
Always a pleasure. I'm loving these podcasts.
It was great. And guys, you know what? Comment, share, like, send it to your grandmother, maybe to a boomer. Who knows? We're trying to fight the good fight. Out of curiosity and just a little bit, not off the record, but slightly off the record, do you think we should take this to the streets? Do you think we should try to do some slight journalistic work? Interview people, maybe have some debates.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah,
it could be the Charlie Kirks of Canada.
Yeah, well, I do own a bulletproof vest, and I might have to put it on because of the, if you're watching this and you're a big tough commando and security guard, and you want to come help us out, because dude, imagine we went to McGill University, think about it.
I don't feel comfortable going there.
Well, you're in a better position than me because I'm just a cis white fucking man. You know what I mean? You at least you can always hide behind what the man. I'm not gonna do the accent. I know you're Canadian, Canadian born.
Patriotic.
And you're more patriotic than me. And this is the one thing I love.
I don't know.
You are, man. You are. You know, me, I'm ready to give up on Canada. You know, I'm absolutely ready. I've been shit talking Canada for fucking years. I hate. Ooh, this is hard to say to probably some people to hear this. I hate Canada because it's taken away from me so much. But you still have hope for it, and I think that's beautiful, man. And I wish more people
try to
felt
have
like
hope for it.
I wish more people were like you.
Look, there is a way out. There is a way out. I don't like to be. We talk a lot about the negative aspect, but you have to remember that things can change. And we can always get better. We can always learn more and become better people and smarter people. We can learn from our failures. And look, if we get a strong right-wing conservative government that takes care of the economy, that prioritizes economic growth, that allows, you know, businesses to come to Canada to grow. We have so many resources. We can blast through this debt.
Yeah.
We can blast through these deficits, but we need significant reform or it's not going to happen. If we do not take care of this government size, if we don't take care of this bloat, if we don't have a mental shift in this country to be more industrious, to respect industriousness and economic opportunity, to reform our tax policies, if we don't do that, we're not going to have this opportunity. If we do it, we'll do just fine. But it's going to take a big cultural shift.
And I love the hope. And you know what? I love the hope. I hats off to you, my friend. Hats off to you.
Like I said, I think about moving to the US all the time these days. I'm just looking at this country's economy and I'm just like, okay, I could have hope, but I got to be smart about my survival. I want to have kids. I want to have a family. I want to have a thriving business that I'm proud of. You know, I have a family business that my dad started. I love the work that I do. I want to be great at it. I want to be one of the best at it. And it's not going to happen in Canada. That's what I'm realizing day by day. It's not happening in this country.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I grew up here.
You should not be punished for your ambition. And at least in the US, they will reward it. So I agree.
You know, my family came to this country with absolutely nothing. You know, you asked me why I'm so patriotic. We came here with absolutely nothing. We have a beautiful life. We contributed to the system. And that system is being eroded before my very eyes. That's why I'm so passionate. That's why I made such passionate TikToks. People are like, oh, you're crazy. You're intense. Oh, you don't understand what's at stake, guys. Yeah. Like, just relax.
But, you know, and I think
pay attention,
please. It's why your voice carries so much power and strength. And I'm not talking about the tonality of your voice, although it is very manly, especially on these microphones. It's due to the fact that you're the prime example of what Canada, the Canadian dream, is all about. You came to the country, your family came, not you because you were born here, but your family came to the country and made it better. It contributed to it and it created, in kind, a better life for you guys as well. It was a mutualistic, beneficial relationship. And that's what's beautiful about it, man. So, all right, guys.
We hope to get back there. Until next time.